listening to Journeys with Rebecca Radio with your host, Rebecca Jernigan, your tour guide into discoveries. Coming to you live simulcast from the heart of America to around the globe via the World Wide Web, terrestrial radio, satellite, and podcast. Let's journey together into the realms of the unknown to the known in search of enlightenment, knowledge, and truth.
I am here in the heart of America, broadcasting live and heard on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, Studio B, also being simulcast on wolfspiritradio.com and heard at journeyswithrebecca.com. This is your host, Rebecca Jernigan, and you are listening to Journeys with Rebecca. Well, welcome to another Friday night. This is the Journeys with Rebecca live broadcast, and tonight I have a great guest with me. He is an educator and a counselor. His name is Dick Larson. And this is a little bit of brief information that Dick wanted me to share with everyone. These times are difficult and confusing. The world seems in turmoil. And Dick is going to provide some information that helps explain our rapidly changing reality. He shows it in understandable terms how the qualities of the new age are impacting our lives and our world. And I'm going to be bringing him on in a few minutes and let him tell us more about himself and this new age kind of qualities that's going on in our changing reality. We're going to get into a lot of topics, so I'm real excited to have Dick here with us tonight. But please, if you do have your questions, send them to the chat boxes, put them in all caps. And you can find those at both stations at freedomslips.com and wolfspiritradio.com. The monitors will then forward those questions to me, and I'll get those asked on the air. Please log on to the website, journeyswithrebecca.com, and check out the new features there. And to sign up for the newsletter, it's at the top right-hand side. And while you're there, do check out Conscious Creations with a K, consciouscreationswithak.com. And the last thing I want to kind of remind everyone is to please remember that these radio stations really are commercial-free. They're listener-supported. So use the donation button found at Wolf Spirit Radio and the site support button found at freedomslips.com. Every little bit helps, folks, and we sure can use all the little bit of help that we can get in these days. And without further ado, let me go ahead and get my guest on, Mr. Dick Larson, and get him in the mix with us tonight. Good evening.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great, thank you. I'm glad to be on your show.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. We had quite a thing getting back and forth to get us both lined up to get you here, and I'm actually real excited to have you here tonight, Dick. Share some of your insights, and you've got a lot of different ways of bringing things forward, and I think the audience is really going to appreciate that. This being your first time on the show, though, maybe what you could do is give everyone like a little short bio of yourself, kind of let them know how you arrived here tonight with all this information. Where you come from, a little bit about that before we get into the rest of this.
Sure. Well, you're from Mid-America, and so am I. I grew up in Minnesota. And Minnesota, yeah. I've heard that a lot, let me tell you.
I betcha.
Yeah, a little town in southwest corner of Minnesota, and I grew up. And then I eventually, the Air Force brought me out to Southern California. And I loved it here so much that I decided I have shoveled my last snow, and I stayed. So here I am, and I'm in the Los Angeles area in Southern California, and I've had several career fields since I got out of the military. I've been a businessman in international business for about 23 years. And then after that, I got interested in working with special education people, and I became a special education teacher, and I fell in love with autistic kids. So I worked with autistic kids and young people for about 3 years, and I decided that wasn't really it. So then I started teaching for a college, and that's what I'm doing now. And in the meantime, there's a man named Benjamin Creme, spelled C-R-E-M-E, who traveled around the world almost the last 40 years, and he came to Los Angeles once a year, and he gave a talk, a lecture, and a friend of mine said that I should check him out. So I did, and this was about 20 years ago. And about 20 years ago, I saw Benjamin Creme speak in Los Angeles. I didn't understand everything. Some of it went over my head, but what I did understand fascinated me. So I got his books, a couple of his early books. All of his books are available on Amazon, and but I'm not here to sell books. And yeah. And so I started reading his books. Well, I found all kinds of information about the world around us and the spiritual universe and so on that my religion couldn't provide for me. I grew up a Christian. I grew up a Lutheran in Minnesota, and I loved my church. I was going to be a preacher for a while. And then I fell into the flow of life, and that just kind of got left by the wayside. But I've always been interested in the spiritual side of life, so I've studied the world's major religions, and the Benjamin Creme information really struck me as useful. It's information called the Ageless Wisdom Teachings. The Ageless Wisdom is an ancient philosophy, eons old. It is not a religion, it's a philosophy. Its basic truths, though, are said to underlie the basic truths of the world's major religions. And so it's an ancient philosophy that really speaks today. The two latest teachers of the Ageless Wisdom are Alice Bailey, who wrote about 20 books in the 1930s and 40s, and Benjamin Creme is the most recent writer, C-R-E-M-E, and he has written about 15 books and, like I said, traveled the world giving out the teachings, and the latest teachings affect us very much today and help us make sense out of this world we're in. So that's kind of what got me going. I am a volunteer for Share International, a nonprofit organization that is headquartered out of London and out of San Francisco. And Share International is a monthly magazine people can subscribe to. It has no advertising. Benjamin Creme is the editor-in-chief so that he doesn't owe anything to anybody who's contributing money. And so I'm a spokesperson for Share International, and I'm a volunteer for them. One thing I would like to say to you and your listeners, Rebecca, before we go any further is this. Please don't believe anything I say. And I'll tell you why I say that. I say that because that would be blind belief, and I don't recommend blind belief to anyone. So all I ask is that your listeners, as much as possible, try to keep an open mind. I'm going to say some kind of crazy stuff, and if 10 or 20 or 30% of it makes sense to anybody or is useful to anybody, then I'll be very, very happy with that. But please don't believe anything I say. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything or to cram any information down anybody's throat or anything like that. I have the information I want to give out, and obviously I think it's true, or I wouldn't waste my time or anybody else's time doing this. So, I wanted your listeners to know that the primary source of the information that I'm going to be revealing on this show tonight comes from Benjamin Creme's Ageless Wisdom Teachings, the latest revelation of the Ageless Wisdom. Is your microphone working?
No,
okay.
There we are. It is now.
Good.
Listen, I lost you for probably a minute.
Okay.
Everything went away, and nobody was there. And you were talking about the latest information, and that you wanted to share something with me and the listeners, and that was all I heard.
So should I repeat that?
Yes, please, from there on forward, if you would, because your host here doesn't have that information.
Oh, okay. Well, what I wanted to say, what I said was, please don't believe anything I say. Because that would be blind belief, and I don't recommend blind belief to anybody. All I ask is that your listeners keep an open mind as much as possible, because I'm going to say some kind of wild stuff. And if a little 10, 20, 30% of it makes sense to anybody or is useful to anybody, then I'll be quite happy with that. So please don't believe anything I say, but my information comes from Benjamin Creme's books, and I know Benjamin Creme. I've talked to him many times. I've interviewed him 3 times on television, and so I can email back. I've emailed back and forth to him, and so on. He's in London, and most of my information comes from him and his latest revelations.
Awesome. 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 Well, first of all, thank you. I want to thank you again for being here and just presenting the material that you know. And of course, I'm familiar with Alice Bailey. I've heard of Benjamin Creme. I am not so much reading of other people's material, but there's so much of it out there that's so valid. Even the stuff that was written, hundreds, even thousands of years ago, can apply to, this day and age, and that's what's exciting.
Absolutely.
Is that spiritual knowledge is spiritual knowledge, or wisdom, whatever you wish to call it. That it is timeless. It is ageless. It holds validity no matter what the calendar happens to say. So
right, as long as we don't get it locked into the old context in which it was given, as long as we bring it to today, that's absolutely true.
Correct. So there were so many things here. I think there's a couple of things that I'm just going to throw some things out here, let the audience listen, and then you kind of can pick up on whatever it is that you kind of want to, which way you want to start going with all of this, because there's just a ton of information, obviously, here.
Yeah, there is.
There's a few questions that were posed. Maybe the first thing is, there's a whole bunch of information about what is called the New Age, and I think in every civilization, or that's not exactly how I want to word that, not civilization, but every few hundred years or whatever the case may be, there's always a new age coming, because we do move forward, we do evolve or devolve, as the case may be, whichever one it is. So it does herald in every millennia or so a new age, because we change our thinking, we change how we do things, we change our routines, what society accepts, what's acceptable. Considering where we were in the Dark Ages compared to now, way big difference, right?
Right.
So maybe your definition, or Benjamin's, whichever one, or maybe both of them, what is your idea of what the New Age is?
Yeah, good question.
And then there's another question following that I want to ask.
Okay. Well, the New Age is actually a scientific fact. It's not some philosophy or some kind of idea that somebody made up. If you were to go up to an astronomer, and talk to them about it, they would be able to explain it to you, probably a little more complicated than I'm going to. But basically our planet and our solar system are surrounded by 12 huge heavenly bodies full of energy, and they are 12 giant constellations. And those constellations we call the zodiac. And about every 2,000 years, our planet comes into alignment with one of these constellations. This is the movement of the heavenly bodies throughout cosmos I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the astrology that's in newspapers and magazines for entertainment. So we come into alignment with one of these great constellations, and then we receive the energies from that constellation. They're spaced apart, not quite evenly. So we will go about 2,250 years or so where we will be in alignment with one of them, and then we move out of that and into alignment with the next constellation. When we're in alignment with one of these constellations, we say we are in the age of whatever that constellation is. Right. For the last 2,000 years, we have been in alignment with, and consequently in the age of, Pisces. And so we have been receiving energies from Pisces. That's what helps our planet evolve, and everything on our planet evolve. And the two primary energies of Pisces are individuality and dedication to an ideal. Well, individuality has made a big difference in humanity over the last 2,000 years because man has come out of the herd. And we're now individuals, the me generation, and so on. As far as dedication to an ideal, it was dedication to the ideal of freedom that saved the world from Hitler and Mussolini and a couple Japanese generals. Dedication to that ideal of freedom saved the world. So those definitely made a major contribution to humanity. Well, now we're moving out of the influence and alignment of Pisces, and we're moving into alignment with the next constellation. And the next constellation is Aquarius. So, since 1625, we've been moving away from out of alignment with Pisces, and since 1675, we've been moving into alignment with the great constellation Aquarius, and now we're receiving its energies. The scientists call this the precession of the equinox. That's what they call it. We call it moving into a new age. And so we're now coming into alignment with Aquarius, which has two different energies. The primary energies of Aquarius are synthesis and cooperation. So now you're going to see the individual be put to work within a group, cooperation. So the individual that grew out of the Piscean age is now going to be dedicated to working symbiotically as part of a group. You're going to see a lot more work done by groups. The Aquarian energy will support groups, Rebecca, not individuals so much. So there's going to be people marching in the streets are going to change the world. That's the energy of Aquarius working through groups. So everything we built right now, our educational system, our government, which isn't representing the people, our healthcare system, which isn't working, everything that we have, our people are starving, everything that we've built isn't working anymore. Why? Because it was built with Piscean energy, and Piscean energy is being withdrawn. So all these great institutions can do is collapse. And that's exactly what they're doing. We need to rebuild them with the energies and the ideas, the inspiration of Aquarius, synthesis and cooperation. And once we do that, they will once again serve humanity wonderfully. But right now they're not working, and people don't understand why. The reason is the energy they've been built with is being withdrawn. So anytime you're halfway between two ages like we are right now, you're getting that cross shoot of energies from both. So we have people on this planet, especially the young people, who are ready for change and ready for new things and to find out what life is really all about. And then we've got a lot of the old timers, the old Piscean thinkers who are holding on, especially the conservatives in banking and religion and government. They're holding on with their dying breath to prevent change. And of course they can't. It's going to happen. So what happens when two energies, two constellations are converging like now is chaos. And that's what we're seeing on the planet. It's no accident.
Well, it's a very good explanation. I talk a lot about these energies and how they really affect us and the vibrations and frequencies. And so you're right there with the rest of us. And I like the way that you explained that. It was really good. So, I think it's interesting that you talk about the Me Society, because that's exactly what has really shown up. It is really all about the people have almost isolated themselves as if they are
absolutely.
A world in and unto themselves. And in some effect, that's truth. But they also have to realize that everything that they do affects every other person. That's the quantum entanglement thing. We won't get down that path. But, I'm a big proponent of this new age, and you talked about the precession of the equinox. I've had a couple people on that have talked about this, and talked about the gold age, the bronze age, all of those things, and how we're moving up the ladder, so to speak.
Yes.
This is all cyclic in nature, with the exception of when we move into these, into where we're at in space, literally, in a physical sense.
Right.
And we're aligning ourselves with this energy of Aquarius. It's never there. We're never in an identical space as we were when we did this before, which would be 24,000 years ago, approximately, something like that.
That's right.
It's not going to be exactly the same, but the idea here is we got Dave, I think you got your speakers on. Got your mic open. There you go, dear. Thank you. We have a lot of similarities, but for me, even though I can't really remember 24,000 years ago myself personally, for me, I think that the energies are even more intensified than they've been in previous times. I don't know why I know that or feel that, but that's just the way it feels to me. So this is really good.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, absolutely. The energies are very intense right now. And it's causing a lot of this chaos that's going on. You know, people are responding to different energies. And so we have incredible, you described it beautifully. We have incredible separation right now. Look at the Republicans and the Democrats. They're so far on each end of the scale, they can't even talk to each other anymore. The separation is incredible. In the Christian church, there must be 250 different sects or different organizations just within the Christian church. There's Lutherans, there's Baptists, there's Episcopalians, and they all have their way. You know, I mean, it's caused tremendous separation.
Yes.
And so you're absolutely right. And it's a real problem. Today's spiritual crisis actually is that we've forgotten who we are. That's the crisis in the world today. We have forgotten that we're not humans having spiritual experiences. We're spirits having a human experience. And that consequently, we're all children of the one Father, Mother, God. You know, we're all in this together. And while you and I speak every 9 seconds, somebody dies of starvation or a starvation-related illness in a world with a 12% per capita surplus of food, but it's not getting distributed. It's sitting in these huge storage containers in the Western world until we get the right price for it. And if we don't get the right price, then it rots. And so there's people starving, and it's ridiculous. We need to take better care of each other, and it's time to do that.
I think we're beginning to see that a lot, Dick. Honestly, we're seeing people coming out of the water, talking just like what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge advocate. I think about, you know, when I was really, really young, first out of high school, one of my first jobs was working as a waitress. Well, when you worked in a restaurant, at the end of the night, there was always leftover food. Cooked food, perfectly good food. Some of it had just been cooked because they don't really know, you know, who all's coming in, how much to, you know, they try to kind of figure out how many people they're going to serve for the evening, so many dishes, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Right.
So our standards are here in this country is that this perfectly good food cannot be given away. You can't give it to a homeless shelter or to a service that provides meals to families. It has to be thrown in the trash.
Right.
And breads and all your baked goods. And I hear horror stories all the time, Dick, not to get too far off this, but I hear horror stories all the time about grocery stores refusing different products in their store because there happens to be a dented can. Well, then the company says, well, you have to take it all, and they trash it.
Right.
So because of a refusal of a load of perfectly good food, Dave, your mic's on again. There it goes. It gets thrown away. Again, as you said, we have people that are starving literally all over this world, and we are the worst offenders of throwing perfectly good food away. And like you said, we'll store it, and we'll let it rot before we give it to somebody.
Yep.
Now, something's very wrong here. And more and more people are waking up to these things. And this is what the positivity becomes very real, because people are now beginning to gather. They're beginning to say, wait a minute, this isn't right. We all have to eat. We all have to breathe this air, this air that they're poisoning, and this water they're poisoning.
That's right. Well, that's part of the new revelation from Aquarius. That's part of the Aquarian energies of synthesis and cooperation, is that we are becoming aware of it now, thank goodness.
Yes. It's time, isn't it?
It is.
So
it is. That's the next step for humanity. Right relationship. According to the ageless wisdom, the next step forward in humanity's evolution is to establish right relationship with each other. Isn't that interesting?
That gives me the good willies.
Absolutely. It is. It's all about goodwill. It's about the will to good for others. Goodwill.
So let's, I want you to get into some more of the wisdom teachings, but I have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Because you spoke about how there's 250 different break-offs of what you would call the Christian religion.
Right.
So I've had a couple people on, and this is a topic, by the way, that makes me really uncomfortable, but, you know, I have to stretch my own self here, right?
Okay.
So the term Antichrist.
Yes.
And there's, that term has went around off and on for the last, 25, 30 years, at least I'm sure it's done before that, but I mean, in my awareness, 20 to 30 years. What does that mean to you, and is there such a thing, in your opinion?
Yeah. The Ageless Wisdom is very specific about this. I have, I mentioned that I was very involved in the Christian church, and I was going to be a pastor, and I've done a lot of work in the church. I've led Bible studies, adult Bible studies for years, and I've done all kinds of stuff like that. I'm not doing that anymore right now, but the Antichrist is something that there's a lot of fear about in the Christian community, especially. And, the Roman Catholic Church is a Christian church, and it's the biggest church in the world. It's the biggest religion in the world. And there's a lot of fear around teacher coming. And as you probably know, at the beginning of each age, we get a new teacher. About every 2,000 years, God sends a great teacher to bring the next revelation. 2,000 years ago, he sent Jesus, and it's the beginning of another age now, so it's time for another teacher, and we'll be talking about that. A lot of people are going to see this teacher, and they're going to think he was the Antichrist. So let me answer your question about the Ageless Wisdom and the Antichrist. The Antichrist is actually an energy. It's not a person. And it is released periodically to break down the old order and pave the way for the new. And I'll give you an example of that. In St. John's book of Revelation, which is probably the most difficult book to understand in the whole Bible, there are actually three cataclysmic events. One is going on while he was writing, and that's the persecution of the Christians by Nero in Rome. And Nero was, if you look in St. John's book of Revelation where he says the beast 666, and you have a good study Bible, the numerology was big back then. Every letter in the Greek alphabet stood for a number, and there'll be a footnote by the beast 666, and the footnote will say 666 is the total numbers in the name Caesar Nero. Nero was the beast 666, and the Antichrist energy was released through Nero to break down the old dispensation, which it did. Nero single-handedly destroyed the Roman Empire. You know that saying, Nero fiddled while Rome burned? It's literally true. He destroyed the Roman Empire and paved the way for Christendom. So it was released 2,000 years ago through Nero. It has already been released in our time. The Antichrist, this is good news from the Ageless Wisdom, the Antichrist for our time has come and gone. And if people think about it, they know exactly who it was. It was Hitler. The Antichrist energy was released through Hitler. If he did everything that St. John's book of Revelation said the Antichrist is going to do. He was incredibly evil. He killed millions and millions of people. He tried to conquer the world. And for over 30 years, he fooled millions of people into thinking he was going to create this perfect Aryan society, this perfect world. And he ultimately was defeated by the Allied powers. So the Antichrist energy was released through Hitler. It was released through Mussolini in Italy. And it was released through a couple Japanese generals in Japan, those Axis powers. And it was defeated. It was put down by the Piscean, energy of dedication to the ideal of freedom. We put down the Antichrist. The Antichrist for our time has come and gone and paved the way for the new teachings from the new teacher.
Oh, well, see, I was filled with trepidation, not knowing what your answer was going to be, and thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It'll be released.
I never thought of it as an individual. I always thought of it as an energetic force.
It is.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. And it will be released one more time in about 3,000 years for the last time, and then it will be defeated. That battle will be fought on the mental levels, Rebecca, instead of the physical levels like this battle with Hitler was. That battle 3,000 years from now will be fought on the mental levels, and then the Antichrist will be put down for the last time. It won't be needed anymore in the evolution of planet Earth.
Oh, well, see, now that brings joyousness to my heart when you say that.
Yeah, it's good news.
It is. It's very good news. So, obviously this is an extremely interesting time for everyone to be in right now.
It is.
And so I'm going to kind of let you steer your boat now. I wanted to get those things kind of put out there, and of course I'll interject every now and then, but I know you really wanted to get into some more of the Ageless Wisdom teachings, and we have other topics that we can talk about. Certainly we'll get into UFOs and that kind of thing, the extraterrestrials.
Oh,
A lot of people would like to hear about that. Oh yeah, you got a great audience here. I have to say, Dick, there's lots of lovely people listening, both on Freedom Slips and Wolf Spirit Radio. Some of these things are right up their alley. So this
well, I'm
is
glad
fabulous.
to have them. I'm glad to have them. That's wonderful. Yeah, the biggest news that I have to give is that a teacher for the age of Aquarius is coming. As a matter of fact, the teacher's here now, waiting for the right time to come forward. And before we're done talking, Rebecca, I'm going to tell you how everybody that's listening will be able to recognize the teacher when he comes forward. And then they'll know that this is the teacher for the age of Aquarius. And of course, we have free will. That's one of the big parts of the Ageless Wisdom teachings, is that humanity has free will. First story of the Christian Bible, Adam and Eve had a choice. Humanity has always had a choice. That's how we learn and grow, Rebecca. We each have purposes for our lifetime, and usually 2 or 3 of them. And one of them is always to serve our brothers and sisters, and by serving them, to serve God.
Yes.
So that's always one of our purposes in a lifetime. Another purpose in a lifetime can be, I forgot what I was... I'm so sorry. I got distracted here, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. So
I never do such things ever.
I apologize. I was going to talk about the ways you'll know the teacher,
yes,
and that we have free will. And so one of the ways that we learn and grow is by making choices. That's why we have free will. We have free will to choose. It isn't our goal to choose correctly every time. The goal is to learn from every choice and grow from every choice. So we can learn from a wise choice. We can learn from a poor choice. So the goal is to learn every time we choose, to learn and tuck that away, and that's how we grow. So free will is sacred. The masters of wisdom, I should explain what I'm talking about.
Yes.
People may know about ascended masters. These are people who have gone through human evolution ahead of us. And they have learned every lesson that planet Earth has to teach, and they don't need human bodies anymore. So now they are conscious entities. They are spirits, if you will. They're great conscious entities, and they are behind the scenes, are the inspiration for humanity and have been over the eons. We call them masters not because they're masters over us, but because they're masters over themselves. And so they understand the rules of life on planet Earth, and they have mastery of those. So they don't have to obey rules like gravity and things like that. They don't have to worry about that. But there are some of God's rules that are absolute, and one of them is free will. These great spiritual beings, you know them as Buddha, Jesus, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Paul, John, Ringo. No, not Ringo. No, Joan of Arc, Saint Germain, Confucius, Krishna, great beings like this. They're still around, but their consciousness is around. They're not in physical bodies anymore, and we call them the masters of the wisdom. They're known as the kingdom of souls, the heavenly kingdom, the ascended masters. There's all kinds of names for them. The spiritual hierarchy. Because they're at different levels, even though they're spirits, they're at different levels and have different responsibilities in that world, the spiritual world. So we have free will, and the masters that are coming will not tell us what to do. They will not tell us what to do or force us to do anything. We always have free will, and they respect that. That's why the teacher hasn't come forward yet. Now, he doesn't come alone. There's 14 teachers on the planet right now, 14 masters in physical bodies. And the one who is their leader, the world teacher, his personal name is Maitreya. I'll spell that. It's Maitreya. It means the happy one, the one who brings joy. His personal name is Maitreya, just like my personal name is Dick and yours is Rebecca. So if you saw him on the street, you'd say, "Hi, Maitreya." And anyway, he's the world teacher, and he comes to bring the latest revelation and the latest teachings. And the latest teachings are, according to the Ageless Wisdom, he is going to teach the will of God. Buddha taught the wisdom of God. Jesus taught the love of God. This teacher comes to teach the will of God and the purpose behind that will. So he will be teaching that, but his first 4 priorities, he's not going to start a new religion or anything like that. His first 4 priorities are food for everybody, health care for everybody, housing for everybody, and education for everybody as a human right. And those are human rights already declared by the United Nations, but we're not acting on them. And so he comes for real basic stuff. You know, he comes to help us solve the problems of the world. My information is that once he comes forward, within about 2 years, starvation on this planet will end because we will distribute the food. The plans are out there. Rebecca, there are people making plans right now for how to set up the government more wisely, how to set up education more wisely, how to set up healthcare more wisely, how to feed people more wisely and better. All these plans are out there, but they're not coming forward because we're not ready to listen yet. Because right now, money is still God. And if you don't believe me, just try to go to court without any and see what kind of justice you get. You know, money is God, and money affects everything right now. And money is going to slowly disappear, my information is. The stock markets are a gambling casino. They have nothing to do with real life money. And they are going to slowly die out, the stock markets. And so there will be cattle and things like that will still be on the stock market, but not money like it is now. And when that happens, people are going to say, what do we do now? There's no money. We don't have as much money as we had. What do we do? That'd be a perfect time for someone to step forward and say, okay, now it's time to start trusting the real God instead of the fake God that we made called money. By the way, money isn't evil. Money can be a spiritual tool. Money is very neutral. It just depends on how you use it, but we're not using it very wisely.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So
and
that's one of the.
Wait, before we go any further,
Sorry.
Somebody wants to know where you're getting your information from again. They missed
Sure.
that part of it when you started.
I'll be happy to
get
repeat.
back into the money thing.
Yeah, I'll be happy to repeat that. My information comes from something called the Ageless Wisdom Teachings. The latest revealer of the Ageless Wisdom is a man named Benjamin Creme, C-R-E-M-E. He lives in London. He's been traveling the world for 40 years, almost, giving out this information. And he's written about 15 books, which are all available on Amazon. And the information that I'm giving you from the Ageless Wisdom comes from Benjamin Creme. He is my source. I know Benjamin Creme. I met with him at least once a year for about 17 years. I've interviewed him on television. He is one of, if not the most spiritual person I've ever met. But he makes no claims for his spirituality. He makes no claims whatsoever for his status at all. He says, I'm one of you. I'm, just like any good teacher would. So I respect him highly, and I'm not asking you to. Like I said, don't believe anything I say just because I say it. That would be blind belief, and I don't recommend that. Just run it through your common sense, through your life's experience, and see if it makes any sense to you. But the source of my information is Benjamin Creme's books and his teachings.
Thank you for answering that again.
Sure.
For the people that are really listening here, and they come in just a little bit late on the show, or missed it, so this helps them to understand where your stuff comes from.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share it.
I'm so glad, you and I are so much on the same page. It's not even funny.
Good.
It's just wonderful. And, again, and I talk about it a lot on my show, different things like, like you said, money itself is not evil. It's what do you do with it?
Right.
We've had wonderful inventions on this planet, wonderful inventions that were created from wisdom and from their heart and from love and for the benefit of people, and it too can be turned and used in the negative. We are, after all, on a planet of duality. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that with you, that, we're right there on the same page. Money in and of itself is simply a tool.
It is, and it can be a very good spiritual tool if used wisely. But it's become God. It's determined the quality of lives now, and you either have it or you don't. And the gap between the haves and the have-nots has grown just dramatically. And the poor people of the world are looking around at everybody that's got it, and they're saying, "I want mine." Well, that's where some of these that's where some of this terrorism comes from, I'm sure. Yes. People are angry. The have-nots aren't getting a fair shake. There's no justice. See, in America, in America, we have lots of freedom. In communist countries, they don't have a lot of freedom. Or in socialist countries, it depends on the country. You can have a lot of freedom or not. But what we don't have a lot of in this country, like we could, is justice. And like I said, try going to court without any money and see what kind of justice you get. Whereas in socialist countries, there's a lot of justice. Everybody has equal health care. Everybody has equal access to, all different kinds of things. But what we need to do is we need to combine the two. We need to combine the freedom with the justice so that we don't have all these have-nots looking at everybody that's wealthy and saying, how come, why can't I have mine? And what it means is that we need to start living according to our needs rather than our wants. And that's what's going to happen as time goes on, Rebecca. We are going to more and more realize that we can, that's one of the teachings that Maitreya brings, is that we can live according to our needs, not according to our wants. And we can have everything we need and have a wonderful life and still help make sure everybody else gets what they need. And one of the ways to do that is by sharing. Now, when I say sharing, I'm not talking about people giving up their life savings or anything like that. I'm not talking about forced taxes or anything like that. I'm talking about governments, nations of the world sharing with other nations. Every nation produces some materials from its own country and more than what it needs. The United States produces all kinds of extra stuff we don't need. And what we need to do is trade that with somebody who's got something we need. So we share it with them and they share theirs with us according to our need. And that way everybody gets what they need and nobody's left wanting. If there's a family of 4, Rebecca, and they only have enough food for 3 people, they don't decide which one they're going to not feed and let die. They all share it so that all 4 live. Well, that's what we need to do. That's what we're not doing that right now. We're letting people starve and die. And that needs to change. And that's the kind of message that he comes. He comes to wake us up. He comes to say, hey, you guys, you're not taking care of each other, and you are all brothers and sisters. You are all children of the one God. Whatever name you call it, it's the one God. And you're all children of that God, and let's take care of each other here. He comes to help us realize what we can do that we're not doing. And then, of course, we have free will. We can either do it or not,
Well, and free will is the thing that this is, my understanding is from my own sources is that, this is, in this particular universe, the only planet that exists because of the population that is here, the humans, and of free will. And and everything that we do is a choice. And I love what you said in the very beginning of this. Not about, doing everything right. It's about the choices you make and that you learn from those choices that you
Exactly.
That's what free will is.
Yes, it is. And we think that the goal is to make the right choice every time, and then when we don't, we beat ourselves up. That's not the goal. That's not the goal. I don't think God ever expected us to make the right choice every time, but God does expect us to learn from our choices. And that's where we blow it. We blow it when we don't learn.
I think they call that the definition of insanity when we do the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome.
Absolutely. That is insanity.
We're
very good at it.
Yes.
I speak for myself too, by the way.
Yeah, me too. My hand is raised.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So,
well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
This is a very exciting time to be alive. You said that before, Rebecca, and I just want to just echo that because for your listeners, I'm telling you guys, by the way, I'm from Minnesota, so you guys is kind of like in Texas they say y'all. I'm not just speaking to men when I say you guys. I'm speaking to men and women, everybody. But this is an amazing time to be alive, and I'll tell you, I am absolutely certain in my heart of hearts, Rebecca, and your listeners don't have to believe me, that there's no accident that we're on this planet right now. The listeners and you and me, that we're here. We're here for this transition into the new time, into the new way of living. We're here because we're open to it, and we're here because we're being asked to respond to it and to lead the way. You can either be at the back of the parade or you can be at the front of the parade. And I'll tell you, the people that are alive on the planet right now are here to be at the front of the parade. Just like my parents' generation back, they were here to defeat the Antichrist, and they did it. They made a lot of sacrifices in World War II, but they did it. They did their job. They're gone. Now we're here, and this is our job. Our job is to change the planet. I'm telling you, your listeners are going to see changes in their lifetime they won't even believe. They won't believe the different world we're going to see 10 years from now. I mean, it's going to blow people's mind, much less 20 and 30 years from now. I mean, this is the most dramatic time to be alive that you can imagine, because we're going to see unbelievable change, and we're going to lead the way if we want to. We're going to lead the way by telling others about it, and by marching in the streets, and by sending emails to our congressmen and our senators, and by working as groups, as part of groups. We're going to change the world, and we're going to bring justice to the world, and peace. Peace is actually going to happen. Now, there'll always be little dictators popping up for a while that the United Nations is going to have to go in and put down. But as far as war goes, that's the problem. Here's what's happening with our planet. We got three major problems. We can't end war. We're polluting the planet so much we're killing it now. Al Gore and his scientists were right. We have about 20 years, or it's going to be irreversibly dying. And we're starving people. So we're starving people. People are dying of starvation, and we can't stop war, and pollution is killing the planet. This can't continue, or planet Earth won't continue. This is a critical time in the life of the planet. And so, everything's a system. Our planet is part of the solar system, and the solar system is part of our galaxy, which is what? The Milky Way galaxy, right? And so we're part of a system. Well, when something is hurt, let's say a part of our body gets hurt, the rest of our body rushes in to help it. Well, that's what's happening. The spiritual kingdom, the masters of wisdom, are rushing in to help, and so are our space brothers and sisters, and we'll talk about the UFOs in a little while. They're here on a mission of mercy as well, and we have got to stop what we're doing. We've got to turn this planet around, and that's why we're here. I'm telling you, that's it. That's why we're here. And your listeners, if they're still listening to this show, they're going to be some of the people that are going to be responding when Maitreya comes forward and makes some suggestions. They're going to be some of the people that are going to be saying, how right, how do we do it? Let's go. And that's what's going to change the world. We, everyday people, are going to, not the leaders of the world. They're not going to change the world. Not in the age of Aquarius. Maybe in the age of Pisces, but not in the age of Aquarius. In the age of Aquarius, the man on the street is in charge of the world, and we will change the world. Honest to God.
Well, you know what? I have to tell you is from the information that I've got that is exactly it. And I tell my listeners all the time, you as an individual can make a difference. And we do.
Everybody can.
Yes, especially when we connect with our neighbors, our friends, our relatives, our loved ones, people who are of like mind. That doesn't mean they agree on everything, for heaven's sakes. No. But it does mean that they all agree that hunger needs to stop, that the pollution needs to stop, yep, that the control mechanisms need to stop. And in order to make that stop, then we, the people, the individual, has to stand up and say, I'm sorry, this is not working for not just me, but for everyone it's not working. So when you talked about the government not being the ones, and to get a hold of your senators and congressmen and whatever else.
Sure.
You know what I would like to see is I would like to see the man on the street. And whatever that new government looks like, should there be one, that the man on the street, the honest, understanding, humanitarian, logical, reasonable individual and truthful is the one that's going to step forward and say, I'm going to run, and I'm going to win.
That's what's going to happen.
And I'm going to change this. And,
yep,
and if I don't, I'm going to find the other ones that have been voted in just like me all across this globe, at least in the United States, and we're going to get together and we're going to say no more to this. We don't have to go to war.
No.
And the war thing is something I've talked about on the show before, and I don't want to get into a long discussion on it. But for me, it is something that has been kind of planted, as it were, onto this planet that is really wasn't something that is really supposed to be. but it's here, and now we have to deal with it. And the way we deal with it, and I would tell you, as I told a story, there was these were tribal women, and I don't know what country they were in. And I read this story a couple of years ago. And there were two warring tribes. And the men would go out every day, and they would go and fight each other and kill each other, right? They did not believe the same. They had all these infractions they were committing against each other, as well as murdering each other.
Right.
So the women of these warring tribes got together, and they said, I don't like you, and I don't like you either. However, we don't want this anymore. You can have your space. We can have our space. We can live alongside of each other without intermingling, but we're not going to take this anymore. And the women agreed. So that all the women from both of those tribes came forward, and they stood there, and they did nothing, absolutely nothing. They did not cook. They did not take care of anything. They did not sleep with their husbands until they quit fighting.
They went on strike.
Yes, they did. And without a drop of bloodshed, without a harsh word, without a weapon being drawn, the war between those tribes ended.
Nice. What a great story.
It was just an agreement.
Yep.
And they agreed that they didn't like each other, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But their men were going to have to stop doing this because all the husbands and the fathers were being killed.
Well, that's what it takes. It takes people to stand up and take action. And that's exactly what they did. They took action. By taking no action, they were taking a huge action.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're going to have to do.
Yes.
is take action. And I think you're absolutely right. I think our government is going to become, once again, be represented by the everyday man. Right now, we have mostly attorneys that are in our Senate and House, and that doesn't make any sense. And they're making a career out of being a politician. That job wasn't signed up. That wasn't designed to be a career job.
No,
that was signed up. You do this for a few years, and then you go back to being a fireman or whatever you were.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think we're going to go there. I think we're going to see one of the problems is we haven't had wonderful, wonderful people running for office to vote for. And I think we're going to start seeing that. More and more of the people that really should be helping to make these decisions will be stepping forward because they're going to see that they can actually start making a difference.
Well, it really starts in everyone's own community. If you start going in there in your own community,
exactly
getting
right.
involved in your town meetings, running for your local office, that little effort there creates a huge wave. A wave of energy, just like we were talking about. You were talking about the astrological sign, that we're in this astrological sign.
Right.
Astronomical, right? That's where we're at.
Yeah, exactly.
As above, so below.
It's astronomy. As above, so below is right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Pisces, what's the sign for Pisces?
Fish, isn't it?
It is. It's the fish. Jesus was the teacher for the age of Pisces, the fish. There's all these fish analogies in the New Testament.
Right.
I'll make you fishers of men. He fed the crowd with fish. There's two symbols for Christianity, the cross and the fish. Most Christians can't tell you why the fish. I'll tell you why. Because Jesus was the teacher for the age of Pisces. That's why. And they used to make the sign of the fish back in those days. When they were talking to somebody they liked, they take their foot and in the dirt they draw half a fish. And if the other person completed the fish, then they knew they were talking to another Christian and somebody that they could actually, get honest with and trust. But if they didn't complete the fish, then they just kind of wipe it out with their foot. So, even they knew, So the teacher for the age of Pisces has come and gone, and the teacher for the age of Aquarius is coming. And you know what the symbol for Aquarius is?
It's the man.
Yes, a man carrying a pot of water. Jesus actually foretold this time in the Bible. He said, there's a little vignette in the Christian Bible where he says to his disciples, go into town and look for a man carrying a pot of water and inquire within and rent that room. And they did. They went in, they rented the upper room, and that's when they had the Last Supper and all that stuff. A man carrying a pot of water in those days was very rare because women carried water. The only place men carried water was at hotels. And so when he said, go into town and look for a man carrying a pot of water, he was foreshadowing the next age. Absolutely. He was hinting when he would be back, by the way. And there is so much symbolism in the Christian Bible. If any of your listeners are Christian, there is so much symbolism we don't understand. We take it too literally. Once the symbolism in the Bible has been revealed, it is going to be a wealth of additional knowledge and information. Just little things like that little vignette with Jesus there. Very important. Very important. So today, it's the water carrier. The water carrier is the symbol for Aquarius. The world teacher has been magnetizing wells underwater that are coming to the surface in different parts of the world. He's been magnetizing them and blessing them so that they are healing wells. And there have been several wells discovered now. I don't know if you know about this, Rebecca, but the water carrier is doing his job. The first one was near Mexico City in a town called Tlacote, Mexico, Tlacote, Tlacote. And outside of Tlacote, there was a rancher named Shaheen, and he had a farm out there, and he saw this water bubbling up from the ground, from a natural spring underneath the ground, and his sick dog drank the water, and he got well. So he got the water, and he gave it to a couple other sick animals he had, and they got well. So then he started pumping the water out. And he took it to the local hospital. He talked them into giving the water in Mexico City, giving the water to some of the patients, and most of the patients got well. So then he went to the Mexican government, and they helped give him money to build huge pumps so they could pump this water out in huge storage tanks. And he gave this water away free to people for years. And all you had to do was go in and tell them who you were getting it for and what their problems were, and give them contact information. And they'd set up a file on you, and then you could go get the free water. And there were lines miles long of people lining up to get into his ranch to get that water for years. For years. I had a friend that went down there and got some of that water. And so he was giving away this water. He got an award from the United Nations for doing this. And they kept track, and they said that water was healing people from HIV and AIDS, from cancer, from arthritis, from heart disease, from all pneumonia, all kinds of stuff that it healed. And that was the first healing well. The next one was in Germany under a restaurant. It sprung up under a restaurant in Nordenau, Germany. And they found the water is the same as the Tlacote water. The difference, they looked at it scientifically to see what was the difference. It's a little bit lighter in weight than ordinary water. Both of these wells are. That's the only difference they can see, is that it's like a few isotopes lighter in weight. Interesting. Now there's one in India that heals people, and there's one in Russia now that is said to heal alcoholism, because Russia has a big alcohol problem. And so more,
vodka.
Yeah, a lot of vodka and everything else, but a lot of vodka. You're right. It's very sad. Actually, about 50% of the babies born in Russia are alcohol fetal syndrome babies. They're Down syndrome babies.
Oh, and here's where we're at. We are at the top of the hour. We're going to take a short break. Come back, we'll have more of Dick Larson. We're going to also continue a little bit on the healing waters, get into UFOs, and some more of the ageless wisdom teachings. You guys don't go away. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You're live again.
Am I there?
You are.
That you are.
Okay, so I missed that again. I think I might
Turn
have
your
it
volume
on
up, honey.
I was just talking away again and had my mute button on. Anyway, welcome back, everyone. I have Mr. Dick Larson here with me. We're going to continue our conversation. I like the idea that you were talking about with the healing waters, considering
Yes.
that, there's a lot going on in this country, as you well know. They're trying to privatize water. Matter of fact, we've even had some senators or congressmen or somebody, I don't know, saying that we didn't have a right to water, that it's not a human right, that it's In other words, we have to pay for it. So very, very.
How silly is that?
Yeah, for sure. Like the air we breathe, right? Is
right?
We have to pay for that as well.
The bounty of the earth is there for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. As Alex Collier would say, it's the only planet you have to pay to live on.
Right. Well said.
Anyway, I thought maybe if you had some more thoughts on that, let you continue with the story on the healing waters, and then we can move right into the extraterrestrial UFO thing. That would be awesome.
Sure. Well, the healing water, there are healing wells that now are being discovered, and they'll be discovered as time goes on over the next 2,000 years, the age of Aquarius. These wells will be discovered, and they are going to be a major contributor to the health of humanity. That's my information according to the Ageless Wisdom, and the teacher for the age of Aquarius is the water bearer, the man carrying the pot of water, the water which brings life more abundant. And this water, basically what it does, it raises the body's immune system, and it helps us fight disease better, and it helps us heal from what we've got. And there will be, by the time, 7 is a very spiritual number, Rebecca. There's a really good reason for that. But there will be 777 healing wells around the planet by the time he's done creating wells. Isn't that something?
I like that idea.
Yep, 777 of them. 7 is a spiritual number because, according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, there are 7 primary energies that make up everything in the cosmos. 7 primary energies. And then there are subsidiaries of each of those 7, but the combination of those energies make up everything that we see and don't see in the world. And so if you think about it, there's 7 notes on a musical scale. That's no accident. There's 7 colors in the rainbow. That's no accident. 7 primary energies. And those energies also make up you and I and give us our personalities and our physical vulnerabilities and so on. They help determine our genetic code, those energies. So there are 7 primary energies that make up everything. And 7 days in the week, no accident. 7 wonders in the world, no accident. And so 7 is a very spiritual number, because it makes up everything in the world. So the healing waters will be there, 777 of them. And the water from Tlacote has actually been sent to Ainsworth's Pharmacy. I don't know if your listeners have ever heard of Ainsworth, Ainsworth. It's probably the most famous pharmacy in the world. It's in London. It's a homeopathic pharmacy. And the Tlacote water has been turned into homeopathic pills that you can order from Ainsworth's online. Very, very inexpensive. Very inexpensive. And you can order them in 6C strength or 30C strength. And you can order them in different sizes from Ainsworth Pharmacy online. And you can take Tlacote water tablets. I take a couple every day. I take a 6 and a 30 every day just to maintain my immune system and try to keep me healthy. And if they're ill, they can take the homeopathic remedy from the Tlacote water, however their homeopathist or their doctor recommends. Usually the 6C is for more acute problems and the 30C is for more chronic problems. But the water is available to everybody, and I just want to let them know that I don't make any money off the water. I just think it's wonderful. And I'm sure this will be done with some of the other wells eventually too. The healing water, the teacher is the water bearer, the water carrier for the age of Aquarius. And like I said, he doesn't come alone. It's an interesting time because all of the world's major religions are expecting their great teacher to return at about this time. The Jews are looking for the Messiah. The Hindus are looking for the return of Krishna. The Muslims are looking for the Imam Mahdi. Imam means teacher. The Imam Mahdi. The Buddhists are looking for the Buddha. They got the name right, Maitreya Buddha. They're looking for the next Buddha, the Maitreya Buddha. And the Christians are looking for Christ. And the world teacher comes to fulfill all of those prophecies in one person, in him. He is the teacher for the coming time. So all of the world's religions will get their teacher. They may be nervous about it at first. They may not recognize him at first. But, the tree is known by its fruit. And all you have to do is just wait and see how he talks and see what he does. And the evidence will be there that this is a good man who's trying to help us. He is in a his self-made body. His consciousness was in the Himalayas. And what he did, it took him a few years to make it. He made his body, he's about a 6'3" tall male body. He made his body, and it's indestructible. He doesn't need to eat or sleep. He can't be hurt. He can't be shot and killed. Nothing like that. And then he brought his body down into Pakistan to acclimate it. I mean, the masters aren't used to living in smog and noise pollution and all the stuff that we live in. So it took him a couple of weeks to get his body acclimated, and to the point where, see, he can embody, my understanding is that the world teacher can embody the love of God in him. So he had to build a body that could shake your hand and not zap you to death, you know? So he did. And then he flew by jet airplane from Pakistan to London, which is his home base of operations, to fulfill the prophecy that he would come out of the clouds. And he did. He came out of the clouds in a jet airplane, which, of course, they didn't know about when they wrote the Bible. And by the way, as an interesting piece of information, when he flew to London on July 19th, 1977, notice the 3 sevens? July 1977, 777. And the 1 and the 9, the 1 is the beginning and the 9 is the end of the decimal system, the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning and the end. So July 19th, they don't miss a trick, the masters. I mean, they really don't. So on July 19th, 1977, he flew to London, and his passport said he was 33 years old, which is fascinating because that's the age Jesus was at his death, age 33. So he comes to fulfill all the world's prophecy, all the major religions' prophecies, and we will see him. We will all see him within the next 2 to 3 years, is my information. So this isn't a long time off.
Yeah, we're going to see him worldwide, you mean?
Absolutely. What's going to happen, he's going to be on worldwide television and radio hooked up by the satellites. That's what the satellites are up there for. They're not up there for World Cup soccer. They're up there for this event. And he will be, that's how all eyes will see and all ears will hear. He will be on television and radio worldwide. There'll be a huge press conference. Because what's happening, Rebecca, he's interviewing, and I just want to complete this thought before we go into UFOs. He's interviewing in different countries on network television now. He was interviewed in Mexico as an individual. Now he's interviewing as a common everyday man because we have to recognize him. He's not going to infringe our free will. He's not going to step forward and say, I am Maitreya, I am the world teacher, listen to me, I'm going to help you fix things. He's not going to do that. That would infringe our free will. I'll tell you something. The other masters that are here, they're in all the major cities. Japan, there's one in Tokyo, there's one in New York. There's a master I said there's 13 plus Maitreya. There's a master outside of Rome. There's a master in Darjeeling. There's a master in Moscow. Of course, Maitreya is the master in London. There's a master in the San Bernardino Mountains out here in California. There are 13 masters plus Maitreya. By the way, the master outside of Rome, the Pope, and 2 cardinals in his close circle know that master is there. And you know who that master is? That master is the Master Jesus. Jesus is living outside of Rome at this time. People will see him on television again. You'll see him. He comes, and his job, everybody has a job. His job is to get the Christian church back on track. You know, I said earlier, the Roman Catholic Church is the largest church in the world, the largest religion in the world, the Christian church. There will be no more popes, Rebecca. This is the last pope ever. Jesus will take his rightful place at the head of the Christian church, at the throne of St. Peter, and he will be the head of the church from now on. No more popes. People will be able to ask him, did you really mean when you said that? You know, it's going to be an amazing time for the churches. He's one of the masters. Well, anyway, he flew. He flew to London. He operates out of London. He can appear 20 places at once, the world teacher can, if he wants to. So can Jesus. He can appear any place he wants to. He can appear as a woman, as a child, as a man, as an African American, as an Asian American, as a white person. He can appear any way he wants to, and does. They are appearing to people all the time, Rebecca, and people are starting to recognize them because of the the special feeling they get when they look in their eyes, or their heart they feel the love of God in their heart like they've never felt it, and they just feel loved for some reason. They feel so happy right now looking at this person or talking to this person. And it's Jesus and it's Maitreya. They're appearing to people all over the planet. They may have appeared to you and some of your listeners.
Well, Dick, I've told a story on here about what happened to me when I was a small child in church. And I was in church, and my mother wanted us to get baptized at this church. And my mother was sitting a few pews back visiting with her friend, and I had 3 older brothers, and we were all supposed to be baptized. And so anyway, as I'm sitting there, I'm sitting in the pew all by myself, and this lady sits down. I've never seen this woman. I used to go to this church all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I've never seen her before, and she said, "So what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm supposed to be baptized tonight." And she said, "Well, do you understand what that means?" And I said, "No, not really." So she went on to explain to me what that meant to be baptized, and that to be baptized in this particular church means I had to follow the tenements of the church. Whatever they said would be that I would agree to that for the rest of my life. And I thought about it. My church didn't believe in dancing or singing or technically being happy.
Yes.
And I was the one that got kicked out of Sunday school, by the way, because my Sunday school teacher was talking about the wrath of God, and I raised my hand, and she said yes. And I said, well, I thought God was a loving God. And I raised my hand a second time in the class, asked another question. When my mother came to pick me up from Sunday school, she asked me, the teacher asked her not to bring me back because I was a disruption. Yeah,
you were too much light for that room. You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this lady sits here and she tells me, and she said, so after she told me that, I guess I must have had a horrified look on my face.
Right.
And she said, "So do you want to do this?" And I said, "Oh no, but I can't not do it because then my mom will be mad at me." She said, "Well, I'll talk to your mom." So she went and talked to my mom. She came back. She kind of smiled at me, and she left. And I turned around a little while later, and that woman wasn't there. My mother doesn't remember talking to this woman. Nobody had ever seen this woman before or since.
Yeah.
So, I know that there are
That was a master. That was probably Jesus or Maitreya. Probably Jesus.
All I remember is that I spoke with this woman like she, I was never one. Believe it or not, I was very shy. I used to stutter a lot. I was tongue-tied. I couldn't speak to people. Very, very shy.
Yes.
And so here's this woman. She sits down, and I just freely tell her, well, no, I don't really understand.
Yeah.
So I love it. That it does happen. These things do happen.
Oh, absolutely. I'm absolutely certain you talk to a master. There are angels.
Oh,
yes. But angels, we can't see angels. People think you can see an angel. You can't. When people are dying and they see an angel, it's never an angel. It's always a master. They appear to us as angels because they know they won't scare us that way.
Yeah.
But we can't see angels. Angels are a parallel life form besides the human being. We have guardian angels, but they can't change life. They can't save us from anything. It's masters that save us. When somebody comes and pulls somebody out of a burning car and then they disappear, that was a master, not an angel. So they appear as angels because they know we won't be afraid of them. But they appear to people all the time, more and more lately. And the people write into Share International Magazine. Benjamin Creme is in contact with one of the masters of wisdom. He was trained for years on how to be in contact with this master, and he is. And he's in contact with one of the masters, and so when people write in their experience and they ask, was this a special person? Then he asks his master, and if it was one of the masters, then he will publish that letter and Share International Magazine. And there are letters in there every month from people who have talked to masters. They either as an old person or as a young person or whatever. And I am absolutely certain that you talk to a master. I'll tell you another way that people know, your listeners can know if they've talked to a master or seen a master, and that is this. It's a very ordinary occurrence, but you can't get it out of your mind. It happened to me. I was driving home from meditation one night. I stopped at a red light. I looked over at this bus bench, and on the bus bench was this old homeless man with a long gray beard and a dirty trench coat on, slouched down and looking at me through the top of his eyes. And my first thought, I mean, I didn't even think about it. I just looked at him, and my first thought was, that guy is looking right through me. And then the light turned green, and I drove away. I couldn't get him out of my mind. I finally wrote to Benjamin Creme, and Benjamin Creme talked to his master, and his master said, that was the Master Jesus, looking like a homeless man. I was in the airport in San Francisco. I was trying to get to a meditation that I go to every year, and I was trying to get into town from the airport, and I didn't have a lot of money. And I was trying to figure out how to do this inexpensively, and there was this homeless guy sitting in the airport. He really looked rough. Dark hair, dark beard, real scraggly, and lots of stuff in his beard. And the kind of person I don't like to look at a lot, you know, black overcoat on, real dirty looking. And they always come to teach a lesson. And he said, do you need, can I help you? And I said, well, I'm trying to figure out how to get downtown cheap. And he said, oh, just go out the door, go down to the end of the building, turn right. There's a bus there. It'll take you downtown for $2.50. I said, wow, thank you. Can I give you a tip? And he said, well, that's up to you. So I gave him $5. I couldn't get this guy out of my mind. I finally asked Benjamin Creme. It was Maitreya. They often appear to help people, and they always appear to teach a lesson. So the lesson for me was, don't ignore people who are dirty and homeless. You know, that was my lesson. But one of the lessons always, of course, is that we all are sacred, that we're all holy, that we're all spirits. You know, no matter what we look like, no matter how old we are, no matter where we come from, we're all sacred. That's one of the lessons they teach everybody when they appear, you know.
That's true. That's
yeah.
true.
So I'm hoping your listeners will kind of keep an eye out to see if they've seen a master, because I'll bet a lot of them have, or they wouldn't be listening.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. I do. I totally agree with that. This is cool stuff here, Dick. I appreciate you a lot.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's real. This is real stuff. And like I said, don't believe it just because I say it, but see if it makes any sense. The world is changing, and the masters are here. It is time. It's been 2,000 years, and they're coming to help us. And there'll be a master who will be helping us with health care. There'll be a master for education. There'll be a master for the arts. There'll be a master for religion. There'll be a master in all areas of life, all aspects. See, every aspect of life is sacred. Every aspect of life is spiritual. That's one of the problems with today's world, Rebecca. The religions have cornered the market on spirituality. And it's like, well, if you want spirituality, I guess you better join a religion or go to church. No. Everything is spiritual. Sure, religions are spiritual too, but so is everything else. Being a father is spiritual. Being a teacher is spiritual. You know, being an employee is spiritual. Everything is spiritual.
I agree.
And they come to help us remember that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna just move right into the next topic here, because I could sit and talk about this topic and take that string, and we could carry that for another couple hours.
Yes, we could.
But I want to hear your take on the ETs and extraterrestrials. Sure. You know, again, my audience is those that are listening both on Revolution Radio as well as here on Wolf Spirit, are used to the unusual genres. You know, this is obviously not mainstream radio, so
right.
This is the kind of stuff that, this is where kindred spirits come together and chat about things that they can't necessarily chat about with their own loved ones around them, or too many people. It's not just common coffee house conversation, that's for sure.
Boy, do I ever understand that. I understand. I can relate. Yeah, I'm glad your listeners are here, and I'm glad they're that open-minded, because I'm going to tell you guys some stuff that's going to be pretty hard to believe. But I promise you, I can almost promise you will have never heard some of this stuff before, ever, about UFOs and space people. So let me just get into that a little bit, if you'd like, and I'm happy to do it.
Sure.
I was thrilled to not hear you call them aliens, Rebecca. Aliens is a name made up by the Western governments who for the last 60 years have been trying to discredit UFOs and the space people. And alien is a horrible name that they can give them so that they'll make us afraid of them,
Yes,
and
they don't
and they go out and they slaughter cattle and they say UFOs did it. And it's being done at all levels. Some of it secretly. I mean, half this stuff the president doesn't even know about. It's dark operations. It's black ops,
Sure.
And so all this stuff is going on to discredit them, and they're telling us two things. Number one, they're telling us they're bad, they don't exist, and don't be afraid. None of that goes together. I mean, the message we're getting from our governments is ludicrous. Just on the surface, it's ludicrous. They don't exist, they're bad people, and don't be afraid. Yeah, good luck with that. They're out there. They're out there in the thousands. Now, here comes some information according to the ageless wisdom and the teachings of Benjamin Creme and his master, and Benjamin Creme's own personal experience. Benjamin Creme has been with the extraterrestrials. He has flown with them. He's talked to them on many occasions, and he's very, very familiar with their life. But his master has also educated him on other things. So I'll share some of that with you. The first thing I'll share with you is that there is life throughout all of cosmos. Cosmos is nothing but life. Nothing but life. Everything's alive. There's life everywhere. And that includes our solar system. There's life on every planet in our solar system. Now, we're the only planet that's just the right distance from the sun to have solid physical life. So because we don't melt and we don't freeze, we're just the right distance from the sun. The rest of the planets can't have solid physical life, so they have a different kind of life. And I'll tell you what that is. It explains why we can't see the UFOs all the time, even though they're up there all the time. Our science is only aware of 3 levels of solid physical matter. And that's solid, liquid, and gas. That's the only physical matter that our science is aware of. There's a level above gas, and just like gas, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't hear it, can't feel it. It's called etheric physical. Like ether is a very high gas that you can't, see or smell or anything. You can't touch it. Well, this is etheric physical. They're physical, and they have etheric vision. So they see each other just like you and I see each other. They see their buildings just like we see our buildings, but they're all made out of etheric physical. The scientists have actually discovered etheric physical. They don't know it, but they've discovered it, and they're calling it dark matter. And what they've discovered is that all of cosmos is made up of dark matter. Everything you see and don't see is made up of dark matter, and they're absolutely right. It's etheric physical. Even our solid physical bodies have an etheric physical counterpart to our bodies. So etheric is very physical. We just don't have etheric vision. Now, there's some people, Rebecca, on the planet who do have etheric vision. Not a lot, but some. The beginning of etheric vision is seeing auras, for example, auras around people or around the leaves of a tree, that kind of thing. That's the beginning of etheric vision. And some people have it. Now, here's why we can't see the UFOs all the time. Because they're etheric physical, and we don't have etheric vision. So, we only see them when they want us to. Here's what they do. They lower the vibration of their craft, and they become temporarily solid physical. And then we see them. And then when they want to disappear, they either poof, just fly off so fast, or they raise the vibration of their craft and poof, they just disappear. They are etheric physical. Well, so are the bodies of the crews. The crews are etheric physical as well, and they too can lower the vibration of their body temporarily and become solid physical, so we can see them, shake their hand, talk to them, whatever. But then they can raise the vibration of their body and they disappear, because we don't have etheric vision. So, Mars has 8 million people on it. 8 billion people on it. That's my information. There are more people on Mars than there are on planet Earth. There's buildings all over Mars. We just can't see them. We land a camera on Mars, it doesn't have etheric vision. So it just sees bare naked Mars. It doesn't see the buildings, it doesn't see the people, doesn't see any of that. But they're there. They're all over the place. They're all over the place. And they have etheric vision, so they see each other just like you and I do. Life on all the planets is etheric physical life, except on planet Earth, which is a solid physical planet. So, that's how they can disappear and appear at will. They can go into the ground. They have spaceships in the ground cleaning up our pollution underground from our buried waste, especially nuclear waste. They have ships in the ocean. I just found out that there is a major UFO base in the ocean between Los Angeles and Catalina Island. There have been pictures taken of UFOs coming up out of the water between LA and Catalina.
Yeah.
And so they're in the water, cleaning up the pollution in the water. They're in the air, cleaning up the pollution. This is one of their missions. They have a 4-part spiritual mission. They're here to help us because we're killing our planet. Now, here's what happens. There's a plan for every planet. And there's a God in charge, a God person, kind of person, in charge of each planet, according to the Ageless Wisdom. The planets are part of a larger system, aren't they? They're part of the solar system. Well, the solar system is a unit, and the solar system has a God in charge of it. And that's the God we pray to. We pray to the God that's in charge of the solar system and to the one that's in charge of planet Earth. They have different names. I'm not going to go into them. But that the solar system is a unit, and it is evolving just like the planet is evolving, just like we're evolving, just like a blade of grass is evolving, just like dogs and cats are evolving, and horses are evolving. Everything is evolving. Everything is... The big plan says this. The big plan says, according to the Ageless Wisdom, everything that's physical came out of the spiritual universe. And it says everything that's physical will ultimately return to the spiritual universe, to spirit. So everything is in a process of transition. Even our planet. Our planet is going to become a perfected planet, and it will disappear. It will become etheric. There's an etheric perfected planet in our solar system, by the way. There's a planet named Vulcan, V-U-L-C-A-N, believe it or not. Planet Vulcan is in our solar system. It is a perfected planet and has disappeared from anybody who doesn't have etheric vision like us. So it's called the hidden planet, but it's there. It's real. Venus is in its 7th round. Every planet has 7 rounds. Each round is millions of years. Planet Earth is in the middle of the 4th round. So what happens in the middle of the 4th round is people wake up on that planet. And that's what's happening with us. Just like you said earlier, Rebecca, we're starting to realize we've got to share the resources of the world. We've got to share the food. We've got to share the, we can't be tossing out good food. We need to get it to people that need it. We need to take care of each other. We're waking up. As a society on planet Earth, we are waking up. We're in the middle of the 4th round. So is Mars. Mars is in the middle of the 4th round, but their technology is thousands of years ahead of us. Venus is in its 7th round. It is almost a perfect planet. It's a perfected planet. So guess what? The people on Venus are almost perfect. Benjamin Creme said that if you were to talk to a Venusian, somebody from Venus, they're not Venetians. Those are the blinds. If you were to talk to a Venusian, you would think you were talking to a god. That's how advanced they are, how loving they are, how wise they are. They're just pure love. The people from Venus, pure love and pure intelligence. Anyway, the people the UFOs that are here are all from our solar system. They're not from the Pleiades. They're not from Sirius. Those people have their own issues to deal with. All the UFOs that we see that are around us, that you see on YouTube, my God, there's so many UFO sightings on YouTube now. It's wonderful to look at. There's a few fakes, but they're easy to spot. But the UFOs are becoming visible more and more. They're all from the planets around us. Almost all of the crews are from our neighboring planets, Venus and Mars. Most of the spacecraft for our solar system are built on Mars. The Martians are very industrial people. They love to build stuff, and they're very, very good at it. That's my understanding. And so when other planets need spaceships, they send their orders into Mars. Mars builds them, then they come pick them up. So most of the spacecraft that we see out there are built on Mars. A few aren't, but most are. And most of the crews are either from Venus or from Mars, their 2 neighboring planets. But they're here to help, and their first mission is to help keep our planet alive because we are holding back the evolution of the solar system. We can't stop war. We starve people every day, every 9 seconds. Do you know what that means? That means there's 3 9/11s every day from starvation. We can't stop starvation. We're killing our planet with pollution, and we can't stop wars. We are holding back the evolution of the solar system. So guess what? The solar system is rushing in to help. They've been asked by our spiritual hierarchy, our kingdom of heaven, has said to their kingdoms of heaven, please send some people to help. We want to get planet Earth back on track. We need to end war and pollution. In the meantime, what they're doing, Rebecca, they've got huge motherships that have been up there for decades now, mopping up pollution to keep planet Earth alive. They've got ships in the ocean mopping up pollution. They've got ships in the planet mopping up pollution to help keep our planet alive until we wake up and get our act together and clean it up. See, they can only clean up a certain amount of it because it's not their mess. So karmically, they're limited into how much they can clean up of our pollution, but they're doing as much as they can. And they do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every week, every month, every year, and have been doing it for decades. I mean, we owe them a great, great debt of gratitude, our space brothers and sisters, for keeping our planet alive for us, because it wouldn't be if it weren't for them. So that's one of their missions, to clean up pollution. The biggest pollution, Rebecca, and we don't even know about it, is nuclear pollution. All of our plants are spewing out nuclear pollution. You know why? Because our instruments are too crude to measure etheric nuclear energy. And all of our plants are leaking etheric nuclear radiation like crazy. All of them around the world. They all need to be shut down. They're leaking tremendous amounts of etheric nuclear radiation, and it's a really big problem. And we don't even know what's going on. It's a really big problem. It's causing two things. My information is the nuclear radiation is causing earlier and earlier onset of Alzheimer's, and it's causing a much, much higher incidence of autistic children being born. You know, it used to be that 1 in every 18,000 kids was autistic, and now it's 1 in 88. So nuclear pollution is killing us. It's lowering our immune systems. So we're vulnerable to flus and cancers that we would never get if we didn't have all this nuclear pollution, lowering our immune systems. Isn't that something?
You know, I remember when I was a kid, when they built the first nuclear power plant, and I can't remember where it was at in the United States, and I knew zip about nuclear anything, right?
Right.
But I knew as soon as I heard that I was like, oh my gosh, that is just horribly wrong. Just horribly, horribly wrong.
See, you have good intuition.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
You know, so it's this stuff, and now we're getting, every once in a while you'll hear these news articles come out, you'll see these new news articles come out, and it's been real frequent here in the last couple of weeks, where somewhere over on the East Coast there was a problem with one just here recently, and another one up in the northern part of the country, and I can't remember what state it was in, but, you know, they're talking about there was some problems with them, and then you don't hear anything else about it because they don't want anybody to know. It's just like what happened with Fukushima over there.
Right.
It's still leaking junk everywhere.
It is. Yes, it is.
And it's so, to me, that technology was there only for the greedy. They knew that they could make a bunch of money off of it.
Absolutely.
And they did not care.
No.
They did not care.
And there's
what
no
happened.
safe way to store that waste. None. It has a half-life that goes on. It'll be around for thousands of years, you know, unless it's neutralized. Thank God the Space Brothers can neutralize it and mop it up, but only so much because it's not their mess. The Fukushima, by the way, if you want to talk about UFOs, my information is that the Fukushima radiation was contained by our space brothers and sisters. It has never reached Hawaii. It has never reached the mainland U.S., nor has it reached the rest of the island. It's only on that end of the island of Japan that the radiation, it has been contained. The Space Brothers knew it was going to happen. They saw it happening, and they were ready for it. And they contained the radiation. See, I mean, they are so loving and so kind to us, and they're getting such a bad rap, Rebecca. I mean, they're amazing, amazing people. And we will get to meet them. Now, they don't want to steal the headlines. You know, they're not going to land on the White House lawn and go see the president. That's not their style. They work behind the scenes. It's not their planet. You know, they want to help, but they help behind the scenes. Now, we'll see them. We'll see them on television eventually. They'll be landing and they'll be talking, and we'll eventually see them. But they're not here to get headlines. They're not here to steal the thunder of our hierarchy, who are now coming back. Before this, the age of Aquarius is over, there'll be 40 masters walking around on the planet giving us suggestions and advice and guiding us. 40 of them. So the Space Brothers know that. They know what our plan is. And they're not going to steal our thunder. They're here to help. Now, let me tell you something really interesting, if I may. 2,000 years ago, we got the teacher for Pisces, Jesus. There was a star, the Star of Bethlehem. And it moved through the sky, and it led the wise men to Bethlehem, and it shined down on the baby Jesus so they could see the teacher for the age of Pisces and welcome him. That was not a star. That was a UFO. It was a UFO specifically built for that purpose, Rebecca. It was 2.5 football fields big, and it was built for that purpose, to be the star to announce the arrival of the teacher for the age of Pisces. They know our plan. And when our hierarchy, our spiritual kingdom asks them for help, they come in and help. And they were asked to build that UFO and do that, create the Star of Bethlehem. And they did. Well, guess what? If you go outside tonight and it's clear, you will see a star that wasn't there before. And I'll tell you where I see it. Now, I'm in Los Angeles, but I see it northwest. I see it in the northwest sky, about 30 degrees up, and it's bright white, and it twinkles like a star. It's one of the brightest lights in the sky, and it twinkles just like a star. It's there most of the time, right in that area. But if you look at it really close, you'll see it also flashes colors. Stars don't do that. It flashes colors. And if you watch it closely, you may see it move. That is not a star. It's a UFO. Our hierarchy asked our space brothers and sisters to build 4 UFOs the size of 5 football fields. They're huge. And there's one north, south, east, and west. So no matter where you are on the planet, you will see the star announcing the arrival of the teacher for the age of Aquarius. And that star will be there until the teacher comes forward on television and announces himself to the world, which I'll talk more about in a minute, because I started to say he was interviewing in countries, but I'll finish that later before we go off the air. But anyway, that star is up there, and that is one of the missions of the space people. They came with those stars specially built to announce the teacher, our teacher, for the next age, the world teacher, Maitreya. And so if you go outside, you'll see it. Now, they're telepathic. Now, that doesn't mean they can read our thoughts when we don't want them to. But if we want them to, if we have the intention to communicate with them, we can. Now, let me tell you, my wife saw this star. She saw it out our kitchen window. She said, Dick, is that Maitreya's star out there? And I said, I don't know. Let's go look. We went out in the street and we looked. And I started to see, I said, if you are the star, would you please move? And we waited about 30 seconds, and all of a sudden it went down and up and across back. And I looked at my wife and I said, did that move or did I make that up? And she said, no, that moved. That moved. And I said, okay. Then I ran and got my video camera. And I said, if you're the star, would you please flash colors? And I took about 15 seconds of video. And I put the video in my computer, and my computer can isolate it by frame. And I have these frames of brilliant shades of yellow, brilliant shades of pink and red, brilliant shades of blue and green, brilliant shades of orange. Every frame was a different color. It was unbelievable. I sent him into Benjamin Krem at Share International. He published the pictures in Share International because it was Maitreya's star. So if you go out and look, talk to it. Ask it. If you see it, ask it to flash colors. Ask it if it'll move. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. It depends on what they've got going on. But they'll be up there. It'll be up there, and then when they start to lose power, they have to go closer to the sun and recharge the battery, and then they come back. So, but if you go out, your listeners go outside, they'll see it. If it's a clear night, they'll see that star. It's the star of the teacher, and it'll be gone after he comes forward. It's really something. Wow. Our brothers and sisters, our space brothers and sisters are helping us in so many ways I can't even tell you. But those are some of the ways.
Well, I have to say is that the underwater thing there doesn't surprise me. I've actually heard about those.
Yeah.
And I can tell you is that for all of the madness and the chaos and the negativity and everything else that's going on, that's what's up in the forefront of everyone's minds. That's all they can see is the ugliness and the chaos and the negativity and all that stuff. what they don't see is those that are what I call the unsung heroes. No matter if they're in physical form, non-physical form, those are the ones that, again, they don't come forward and
No.
stand there and,
No.
you know, wave a flag and say, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing for you.
They work behind
They
the
just,
scenes.
they just simply do it.
Yep.
That's all. They just simply do it.
You are so right on.
I think we have a lot of people in here that are kind of misunderstanding a lot of different things here this
Okay.
evening. It's kind of a shame.
Okay.
Because it surprises me, actually, to tell
We
you
have
the truth.
questions?
No, I don't think it's so much questions. It's that that they're just not understanding, I guess, that a lot of your information comes from what you call the ageless wisdom teachings,
Right.
which Alice Bailey, many people will understand her. She's back from the 30s,
Right.
as you stated. She was a follower of this, and I say follower. She was a teacher, I guess, and a student of this ageless wisdom.
She was, and one of the masters dictated his information to her, and then she wrote it down. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, so I guess a lot of people are actually hung up on this word masters tonight.
Oh, okay.
And
Why don't-
that
why don't
really
I do
surprises
that
me.
again?
Well,
I'll-
that's
I'll do
okay.
that again. Okay.
Yeah, you know, it is a term, much like, again, you're called Dick and I'm called Rebecca and Dave runs the board. You know, I'm a talk radio show host. I'm also, clairvoyant. I mean, there's lots of different, titles that you can put there. And same
Right.
with you. It is simply, in my opinion, a way of designating that they've been around a little bit longer in consciousness
Right.
than you or I.
Right. They went through human evolution ahead of us and became perfected human beings and didn't need a body anymore, so they became permanent spirits, consciousness. And they hung around. They didn't have to. They hung around planet Earth to inspire humanity behind the scenes, the great artists, the great music, the great literature of the ages, or the great discoveries have been the inspiration of the masters behind the scenes, these great spiritual beings. You can call them the kingdom of souls, you can call them great souls, you can call them teachers, you can call them whatever you want. They're humans like us who have gone through evolution ahead of us, like Krishna, Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, Mary, Joan of Arc, Saint Germain, and they've gone through evolution ahead of us and decided to stick around planet Earth and help inspire humanity to continue to evolve and grow. And we're so blessed, so fortunate that they have done that. And so they're trying to help us evolve and grow and save the planet at the same time. And so their evolution includes taking a human body again and coming back to work with humanity. That's part of their plan, part of what they have to do to complete themselves as conscious beings. They have to work with humanity from their great high level. I mean, imagine they're perfect people. They're perfect. Their love, their wisdom, their intelligence, their intuition is perfect, and they need to be able to relate and work with us. You know what their life is all about? It's all about service. That's what they do.
Service
They serve.
to self or service to others.
Yeah.
And they
See,
are in service to others. Yes.
They serve us. That's all they want to do. They live to serve us. And that's what they
their
do.
job.
That
That's
is their job. And it's why they exist. The soul, the Ageless Wisdom says that the nature of the soul is to serve. And when you start to get in touch with your soul, you start to look for ways to help people. And it's just a natural thing. That's the nature of the soul. Well, it's also the nature of the kingdom of heaven. And these great members of the kingdom of heaven are inspiring us behind the scenes, and now they're actually taking physical bodies again to come down and walk with us. The last time the masters walked on the planet with humanity was 98,000 years ago. And they haven't been back since then, because that's not their cycle. But their cycle has come around. We are waking up. We're now more teachable. So they're coming back to teach us if we will follow their suggestions. We have free will. We don't have to. They're not here to start religions. They're not here for any of that stuff. The world teacher says if you're in a religion and it's working for you, great. If you're not, I come for you too. You know, we're all spiritual, whether we're in a religion or not. Some people choose religion as their path. That's great for them. If it works for them, that's wonderful. Other people don't. That's fine. They don't care. They're not here for that kind of stuff. They're here to help us with housing, food, education, and health care, the first 4 priorities. And then we'll move on from there. We're going to end war. We're going to have peace. True peace. One of God's great laws is the law of equilibrium. And what the law of equilibrium says is that however bad it's been, that's how good it's going to get. You can't imagine
that.
I know. What a glorious life we have ahead of us. I mean, people don't understand. Right now, we're seeing all the bad stuff. We're seeing the chaos. We're seeing our structures, our education and healthcare and government and everything isn't working anymore. It's all collapsing because it was built with Piscean energy. Piscean energy is being withdrawn. We now have to rebuild it with Aquarian energy, cooperation and synthesis, and we will, no doubt about it. But right now, it looks terrible. But like the Catholic Church, all these priests that have been hurting people and stuff, you know, that's how you clean out the bad. That's how you clean it out. It's got to come to the surface so you can see it. Then once you see it, it looks awful, but you can clean it out. Well, that's the process we're going through right now as a human race. We're going through the process of having all the ugly stuff come to the surface so we can recognize it and get rid of it. And so it looks horrible, but the future is brilliant. It's bright. It's golden. It's unbelievable. It's so incredible. Maitreya is going to give us a glimpse of the future when he comes forward and talks. If you don't mind, Rebecca, I'll just do that a little bit. When he comes forward on television, it's going to be a big press conference. He's interviewed in Mexico. He's interviewed in Brazil. He had 30 interviews as an ordinary person on Brazilian TV. He's interviewing now in Russia. He's had something like 28 interviews on Russian television. He's going to be on the BBC. He's going to be on the Japanese networks. And people are going to say, wait a minute, you know too much. You can't just be an ordinary person. Who are you really? Really, who are you? Tell us. And then he can tell us who he is without infringing our free will. Then he will have what he calls his day of declaration. I will declare who I am. And he will be on all satellites, television and radio. Even people working in the fields, if they're over the age of 14, will hear his words in their head telepathically if they're even 1% open to this possibility. He will appear on television, and I'll tell your listeners how they can recognize him. This is going to happen within 2 to 3 years, you guys. That's my information. Nobody knows the exact date or hour, but stay tuned. So here's how you'll know it's him. First of all, you'll see his face on TV, but his lips won't move. You'll be hearing his words in your head, in your native language, telepathically. He will speak to all of humanity telepathically. Second, while he's speaking, you will feel the love of God in your heart like you have never felt it before. There'll be a lot of people crying. I'll probably be one of them. He said it will be as if I physically embrace you. That's how much you'll feel the love of God. Trust the love of God. The Antichrist can't do that. And the third way you'll know it's him is that when he's done speaking, there will be press reports from all around the world that while he was talking, hundreds of thousands of people around the world were miraculously healed. And in those 3 ways, you'll know that this is the world teacher, and then we can either follow his suggestions or not. But he's going to come on TV. Nobody knows how long he'll talk, 35, 45, 55 minutes, don't know. But we know a few things he's going to talk about. He said he's going to give us a glimpse of the past and show us where we've gone wrong, where we've lost our way. He's going to give us a glimpse of the future to inspire us. He's going to show us this golden, glorious future that we have in store. It's guaranteed for us. It's there. We have to do the work to create it, but it's guaranteed. It's there. They're going to help us by teaching us. They're not going to do the work. Nobody's going to wave a magic wand and make this happen. We have to do the work. But they will guide us and teach us if we're open to it. And so he's going to talk about that. Then he's going to...
We're out of time. We're out of time. So is there some place that, do you have a website or anything, Dick?
Absolutely, Rebecca. Thank you so much. It's shared, S-H-A-R-E, dash, that's a hyphen, international, all spelled out, .org, not .com, share-international.org. Lots of good information on there.
I'm going to go visit it. Thank you, Dick, so much for being here. What a pleasure it was having you. And for all of you, have a good weekend. And we bid you adieu. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, hon.